All right, everybody. Good morning. It is Saturday.
Good morning.
Cold yet nice sunny day today in
Yeah, but we're
Western
still
Kentucky.
inside.
Or what?
Still inside, even
Yeah,
though it's a pretty day.
yeah. It's a little chilly, no doubt. Right up there. Today, Jesus forgives an adulterous woman. John chapter 8, starting at verse 1. Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. "Teacher," they said to Jesus, "this woman was caught in the act of adultery. The law of Moses said to stone her. What do you say?" They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer, so he stood up again and said, "All right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone." Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, "Where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you?" "No, Lord," she said. And Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." Another commentary. The Jewish leaders had already disregarded the law by arresting the woman without the man. The law required that both parties to adultery be stoned. That's in Leviticus 20, verse 10, and Deuteronomy 22, verse 22. The leaders were using the woman as a trap so they could trick Jesus. If Jesus said the woman should not be stoned, they would accuse him of violating Moses' law. If he urged them to execute her, they would report him to the Romans, who did not permit the Jews to carry out their own executions. John 18, verse 31. This is a significant statement about judging others. Because Jesus upheld the legal penalty of adultery, stoning, he could not be accused of being against the law. But by saying that only a sinless person could throw the first stone, he highlighted the importance of compassion and forgiveness. When others are caught in sin, are you quick to pass judgment? To do so is to act as though you have never sinned. It is God's role to judge, not ours. Our role is to show forgiveness and compassion to a repentant sinner. When Jesus said that only someone who had not sinned should throw the first stone, the leaders slipped quietly away, from oldest to youngest. Evidently, the older men were more aware of their sins than the younger. Age and experience often temper youthful self-righteousness. But whatever your age, take an honest look at your life. Recognize your sinful nature and look for ways to help others rather than to hurt them. Jesus didn't condemn the woman accused of adultery, but neither did he ignore or condone her sin. He told her to leave her life of sin. Jesus stands ready to forgive any sin in your life, but confession and repentance mean a change of heart. With God's help, we can accept Christ's forgiveness and stop our wrongdoing. Yeah, so he said, let the sinless throw the first stone.
Mm-hmm.
And not ironically, and he was the one left standing there because he is sinless.
Right.
And yet he didn't feel the need to throw the first stone. So that's very telling right there from everybody. A good lesson for them all to have them look at their own selves and decide, okay, well, if I'm going to be the first one to throw that first stone, then people are going to point their fingers at me. "Oh, no, I know what you did."
Right.
And Jesus could have easily said, "Now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
If you're going to throw that first stone, let's look back at your life and look at this."
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what we as ourselves need to do, is before we get so judgmental on others and saying, "You," remember, all the rest of the fingers are pointing back at yourself.
Yeah.
So we have to definitely take that into account.
Absolutely.
It's right for us to judge. We'll talk about that later in the New Testament. It is right for us to judge on actions, but not for us to pass judgment.
Right.
We can point out the sin, but yet still hand out the hand of forgiveness and compassion, to put the sin in front of the person to say, this is not right. But it's been forgiven, and you should turn away from that sin, just like we should do with ourselves.
Right.
If it's God puts that in front of you and says, look at what you're doing, stop doing that. Or somebody comes to you and says, look, this is not right what you're doing. That is judging your actions, but that is not passing judgment on your person or punishment for that matter.
Right.
In love, we're supposed to confront people and say, look, what you're doing is not right.
And help your brother or sister up too.
Yeah.
Not just say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, and then walk away.
Right. That is absolutely not the right thing to do. No.
But so be there to support them, pray for them, pray with them.
Yep.
If it's a hard time, walk with them.
Yep.
Hold their hand through it, whatever.
Yeah.
Because
and then that's part of our problem with society today, is that we're so, people who are confronted with their sin get
angry,
and and then that starts a confrontation, and you're not allowed to proceed to the next step, which is, once the confrontation is over, to offer compassion,
right,
and help and all of that. It's just immediately, you're condemning me, how dare you, you're the first stone thrower.
Right.
That's the way it's perceived. We're just saying, here, look in the mirror and you judge for yourself.
Yeah. And we're supposed to look in our own mirrors before
absolutely.
we, go and approach anybody with their mirror. But
we cannot come across to them as holier than thou. I know I have seen that myself many times. No, we're not holier than you by any means.
No.
I mean, if I was standing there in that crowd, there's no way I was throwing that first stone. I'd be like, I ain't doing it because I got enough of my own problems.
Right.
So, anyway, well, hope everybody.
A tidbit of trivia before you go. In Jesus' day, it was considered against the Sabbath, because you keep the Sabbath holy. You're not allowed to write anything that was going to last. So it was not illegal to write in the dirt and sand, but it was illegal to write on stone or scroll. So whenever it says that he stooped down and wrote in the sand or dirt, he was following the law by not making it a permanent writing. We never know what he was writing.
No, but when we get to heaven, I can only hope that all of these mysteries our minds are open to that, because I would really like to know what he wrote in the dirt.
Oh, couldn't you just imagine if he was writing the people's names and their sin with their names, the ones that was accusing her?
Yep.
If he was going down the list and writing like Benjamin Stoll, or
Yeah.
if you just go
Picking
through
through your life, and and if somebody were to grab a stone, he'd say, "Here, look at that.
Yeah.
You really want to throw that stone? Look there."
Yeah. We don't know what he wrote.
No, we have no idea.
We have no idea.
That's all pure speculation on our part.
But it's just like, wow, he was putting it in dirt and sand to follow the Sabbath.
Yep.
But could you imagine if that's why they were leaving one by ones, because their name was showing up on the dirt?
Or even not necessarily their name, just particular sins.
Right.
It didn't have to be necessarily adultery, but it could be anger or anything else.
Yeah.
And he just wrote that, and they took a look at that, and they, again, showed the mirror in their face and said, "Yep, I can't do this." So.
Right.
All right. Hope everybody has a glorious weekend, and we'll talk to you later.